So how can one of the most powerful stories of the 20th century be told in two completely different ways? Today, we're going to deconstruct the incredible journey of Oskar Schindler's story, from the written page to the big screen. We'll explore how a book and a film managed to create two very distinct truths from the very same history.
You know, trying to represent the Holocaust is just an immense challenge. It's a huge responsibility that both the author, Thomas Keneally, and the director, Steven Spielberg, had to face head-on. And as this quote gets at, anytime you try to capture a tragedy like this in popular media, you're going to have this intense debate about what's appropriate, what's even possible to show, and what's true.
And that really brings us to the big question for this explainer. How did the exact same set of facts, the same life, lead to two such different experiences for the audience? We're going to break down the key choices that completely transform this story.
Okay, let's dive right in and look at the most fundamental difference in their whole approach. I mean, this is the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about.
So on one side, you've got Thomas Keneally's book, which was originally called Schindler's Ark. Now, he came at this like a journalist, carefully putting together eyewitness accounts into a story that has this very factual, almost dry tone. But on the other side, you have Steven Spielberg's Schindler's List, and that is pure Hollywood drama. It is designed from the ground up to be a powerful, gripping, and just emotionally overwhelming experience.
What's really fascinating here is the genre itself. Keneally actually called his book a non-fiction novel. And get this, it won the Booker Prize for fiction. This caused a huge stir at the time, and it just shows you how blurry that line can be between documenting history and telling a story. Keneally used fictional tools like imagining what dialogue might have been like, but he only did it to serve the mountain of facts that he had gathered.
Okay, so how does this core difference in approach actually play out? Well, let's start with the characters, and specifically, the absolutely crucial role of Schindler's accountant, Itzhak Stern.
So to really get the film's version of Stern, you've got to understand this common trick that screenwriters use, the composite character. This is where a writer takes the actions, the responsibilities, sometimes even the personalities of several real people and basically merges them into one single character to make the story clearer and more powerful.
In reality, and in Keneally's book, the credit was shared. There wasn't just one single guy who was indispensable. You had Abraham Bankier, Mietek Pemper, Marcel Goldberg. These were all real people, and their vital contributions were essentially condensed and absorbed into the film's version of Itzhak Stern. This created a single, powerful moral anchor to play against Schindler.
So why do it? Well, you could call it screenplay math. For a 2.5-hour movie, focusing the story on the relationship between just two men, Schindler and Stern, gives you a much stronger emotional core. It streamlines everything and gives the audience one central, heroic figure to connect with, who represents the collective effort and the conscience of all the Schindler Jews.
All right, now for what is maybe the most iconic difference between the two, a choice that has become a true landmark in cinema history. That single splash of color in a black and white world.
In Keneally's novel, the moment is almost clinical. In the middle of this long list of horrors that Schindler sees during the liquidation of the Krakow ghetto, he notices a small child in a red coat. It's a detail. He notes it, and the narrative just moves on. It's one fact among many others. But this is where you really see the power of film. Spielberg takes that one fleeting sentence and turns it into the entire visual and moral centerpiece of his movie. In the film, she is the only spot of color. She becomes this recurring symbol of innocence being destroyed. And seeing her tiny body later on a pile of corpses, well, that's presented as the definitive turning point for Schindler's soul. It's the moment his greed finally gives way to his humanity.
But this choice is also the source of a huge debate. Is using a beautiful artistic technique like selective color a brilliant way to get at the emotional truth of that moment? Or does it risk aestheticizing a real atrocity? Does it make tragedy beautiful, and in doing so maybe make it easier for an audience to watch? It's a question that really gets to the very heart of how we tell these kinds of stories.
And finally, let's talk about the ending. This is where the film makes its most dramatic break from the historical record, and it's all in the service of emotional release. I mean, that scene is unforgettable. Schindler gets a ring from the workers he saved, and he just collapses. I could have gotten more. It's one of the most powerful moments in the entire movie, and it never happened. It's a complete invention for the screenplay.
Keneally's book describes Schindler's departure exactly as it was, a pragmatic, quiet escape. The focus was on the real-world logistics of getting out of there before the Allied forces arrived. The film, though, needed a different kind of ending. It needed catharsis, that final explosive release of emotional tension, for both the character and for us in the audience. It gives Schindler this moment of total moral reckoning, an emotional cleansing that provides a really satisfying, even if it's fictional, end to his journey.
So again, this raises a really critical question. Does this made-up scene actually deepen our understanding of what Schindler must have been feeling, the sheer weight of his actions? Or is it just an unnecessary dramatization, a Hollywood ending that sentimentalizes a really complex and messy historical reality?
So, what do we make of all this? We have two incredibly powerful, respected, but just fundamentally different versions of the same historical events. When we just lay it all out side by side, the pattern becomes crystal clear, right? The film consistently makes choices to combine characters, to create these unforgettable symbols, and to provide emotional closure. These are all the hallmarks of powerful cinematic storytelling. The book, on the other hand, stays completely committed to the sprawling, sometimes messy, details of the actual historical record.
And this is really what it all boils down to. Neither way is right or wrong, they just have totally different missions. Keneally's Schindler's Ark is a testament. It basically hands you the evidence and asks you to be a sober, clear-eyed witness. Spielberg's Schindler's List is an experience. It grabs you by the heart, and it demands that you feel the full, crushing weight of what happened.
And that leaves us with a pretty fundamental question. When it comes to making sure we never, ever forget, which is more important? Is it the precise, factual truth of what happened, or is it the emotional feeling of what it all meant, the thing that lets it echo across generations? There is no easy answer, and that tension is right at the center of why both of these masterpieces continue to fascinate and move us so deeply.